Welcome back. I've got a special story to share today.
She doesn't fit with our image. A child would ruin the aesthetic. My mother said that about my daughter, at her own dining table. March 2026. 6 family members watching. My 9-year-old daughter sitting 3 feet away, coloring a whale in coral pink crayon. My hands went cold. The fork I was holding suddenly weighed 10 pounds. I set it down carefully, the way you set down something fragile before you break everything else in the room. Lily's crayon stopped moving for exactly 2 seconds. Then she picked a different color and kept drawing. She didn't look up. She didn't cry. She just absorbed it the way she had learned to absorb everything my family did to her, silently, completely, like water soaking into dry wood. That coral crayon. I still see it when I close my eyes. My name is Nadia Carlisle. I am 37 years old. I am a single mother, and I run a company that most people in my family don't even know exists. And that evening in Westbrook, Connecticut, I watched my mother try to erase my daughter from a vacation I was secretly paying for. $14,200 of my own money. But what my mother didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the woman she dismissed as barely getting by had just planned the governor's inaugural gala for the state of Maine. And the truth was about to come out in the worst possible way. For her. Before I tell you what happened next, let me take you back. Because this didn't start at that dining table. It started years earlier, with a pattern so quiet and so consistent that I almost didn't see it until it swallowed my daughter whole. The signs were there, at every holiday, every photo session, every meal, but I was too busy trying to earn my place to recognize what was happening to Lily. If this story resonates with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Drop your location and local time in the comments, because what happened in that dining room changed everything. Even I didn't see the full weight of it coming. Growing up in the Carlisle house in Westbrook, Connecticut, there were 3 of us children. Derek, the oldest, handsome, athletic, effortlessly golden. The son who made my mother's eyes light up at school fundraisers and church picnics. And Lauren, the youngest, charming, petite, the baby everyone fussed over. She could do no wrong because she never had to try. Then there was me, Nadia, the middle, the one who blended into the wallpaper so well that people forgot I was standing in front of it. I was 9, Lily's age now, when I first understood the hierarchy. Derek's soccer championship. Both parents drove an hour to the field, homemade banner with his name in glitter glue, dinner at Giordano's on Main Street after. Mom stood on the sideline in a cashmere sweater and cried when he scored the winning goal. "That's my boy," she told the woman next to her. "That right there is my boy." Lauren's ballet recital the following spring. Front row, bouquet of pink roses, standing ovation from Mom even though Lauren forgot half the choreography. "She was the most graceful one up there," Mom told Dad on the drive home. We all knew it wasn't true, but nobody corrected Patricia Carlisle. That was not a thing anyone in our family did. My spelling bee, county finals. Mom dropped me off at the school entrance at 4:15. Didn't park. Didn't come inside. I saw other kids walking in with parents, little siblings, grandparents carrying video cameras. I walked in alone and sat in my assigned chair with my hands in my lap. 2 hours later, she pulled up in the pickup lane and checked her phone. "How'd it go?" I won. "That's nice, honey. Buckle up, we're late for Lauren's fitting." She never asked what word I won on. It was perseverance. I still remember how it tasted in my mouth under the fluorescent lights, PRSEVERANCE, and how the auditorium clapped and the judge shook my hand and nobody in my family heard any of it. I kept the trophy in my bedroom. Mom never noticed it. Dad glanced at it once and said, "That's great, Nads." It sat on my shelf for 9 years, collecting dust and proving something I didn't have words for yet. 8th grade. I submitted a business plan for junior achievement, a farmer's market concept for local teen entrepreneurs. Only student from our school to make regionals. The ceremony was Friday evening at the Marriott in Hartford. Same night, Derek had lacrosse dinner. "We can't be in 2 places at once," Mom said, pressing his team jacket with the iron at 5:00 in the afternoon. I'm sure you'll do fine on your own. I took the bus to Hartford, wore a blazer I bought at Goodwill with babysitting money, navy blue, one size too big, with brass buttons I polished in the bathroom with a damp paper towel before the ceremony. I placed second in the state. The judge shook my hand. This young lady has a future in business. I wanted to cry, not from the compliment. From the empty seat in row 7 where my parents should have been sitting. When I got home, Dad was watching the news. How was the thing? He asked. He didn't ask what my project was about. He never did. Here is the thing about being overlooked. You learn to make yourself useful instead of visible. You cook dinner without being asked. You clean up after parties that weren't thrown for you. You tell yourself it doesn't hurt. You tell yourself you don't need the attention. You tell yourself that being strong is the same thing as being fine. But it isn't. Being strong just means you are better at hiding the damage. I married Ryan Prescott at 26. My family loved Ryan. He was tall, photographed well, worked in commercial real estate. Mom put our engagement photo on the mantle the same week. Finally, she told Aunt Maggie on the phone, Nadia found someone solid. The word cut deeper than she knew. Lily arrived when I was 28. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, born at 3:17 in the morning on a Tuesday in February. She had my eyes and Ryan's stubborn chin. I held her in that hospital room and made a promise, the kind daughters make when they remember what their own childhoods lacked. I promised she would always know she was wanted. Ryan left 14 months later. He sat across from me at our kitchen table at 9:30 on a Wednesday night. I'm not happy, Nadia. I haven't been for a while. He moved out that weekend. The divorce was final 4 months later. I'll give him credit for honesty. That is more than most people in my family managed. Mom's first call wasn't to ask how I was doing. It was to ask whether I'd done something to push him away. Derek texted, That sucks. Let me know if you need a lawyer. Lauren sent a crying face emoji. 3 responses. Combined total, 47 words. Nobody drove to Portland. Nobody brought food. Nobody asked about Lily. And then the engagement photo disappeared from the mantle. Mom replaced it with a studio portrait of Derek's twins in matching Christmas sweaters. I noticed at Thanksgiving I didn't say anything. I told myself it didn't matter. The mantle was just a shelf. The photo was just paper. But it wasn't. It was a statement. Your chapter is over. You don't photograph well anymore. The week after the divorce, Joanna Chen showed up at my apartment at 9:00 on a Saturday morning with a box of pastries from Boulangerie and a business plan. She had been the event coordinator at the Harbor Grand Hotel. She sat at my kitchen table while Lily napped and said, You're the best planner I've ever worked with. Let's build something. That was the beginning of Starlight events, and the beginning of the first real friendship I'd had since I stopped trying to earn my family's love. But I didn't know then what my mother was about to do to my daughter. And that is the part that still keeps me awake at 3:00 in the morning. Here is the thing about my family and my daughter. There was a pattern, but each piece was too small to fight about, and that is exactly the point. Psychologists call it death by 1,000 cuts. I just call it Tuesday. Lily was 2, Easter brunch. The kids' table had 4 ceramic plates, 4 crystal juice glasses, 4 embroidered napkins. Connor, Madison, Todd's stepdaughters. No setting for Lily. I tried the polite approach. Mom, could you add a place setting for Lily? She didn't look up. Oh, she's fine on your lap. She's small enough. She handed me a paper plate, the kind with cartoon balloons, the kind you buy 50 for $2. I sat there holding my daughter, cutting her food on paper while 4 other grandchildren ate from ceramic. Lily was 3, Christmas photo. The photographer arranged everyone by the fireplace. I walked toward the frame with Lily on my hip. I tried the firm approach. Mom, Lily needs to be in the photo. She's family. Patricia smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Nadia, don't make a scene. We want a clean composition for the card. I stepped back. 42 Christmas cards went out that year. Lily and I were not in one. Lily was 5, 4th of July cookout. She spilled grape juice, a nickel-sized splash on the white tablecloth. She froze, eyes wide, already bracing. I tried the consequence approach. After dinner in the kitchen, "Mom, if Lily isn't welcome at the table the same as the other kids, we won't come to the next one." Patricia dried a wineglass without looking up. "You're being dramatic, Nadia. You always have been." Connor had knocked over a lit candle 20 minutes earlier. Derek laughed it off. Nobody mentioned it. Lily was 7. Thanksgiving. 11 matching chairs and one metal folding chair wedged between the wall and the china cabinet. "That's for Lily," Lauren said, not looking up from her phone. 6 identical dining chairs sat stacked in the garage. I knew because I'd parked next to them. I said nothing. I watched my daughter eat Thanksgiving dinner on a cold metal chair without complaint. She was 7 years old, and she had already learned not to expect a real seat at the table. That was when I made a silent promise. One more time. One more, and I am done. Let me give you 2 lists. What my family believed about me versus what was true. My family's version: Nadia is barely getting by. Single mom. Failed marriage. Works some party planning thing. Oversensitive. Dramatic. The truth: I was running Starlight events with 6 employees. I had planned the governor's inaugural gala. 3 Fortune 500 corporate retreats in 12 months. Revenue over $1.2 million that year. My business partner Joanna and I had built it from my kitchen table with nothing but a laptop and pastries. I wouldn't learn what Aunt Maggie had been quietly documenting in her leather planner until it surfaced at the worst possible moment. But I'll get to that. Now let me take you back to that dining room. March 2026. My parents' 40th anniversary was approaching in June. Mom wanted a family beach vacation in the Outer Banks. I had been secretly upgrading the trip for 2 months. Switched the 3-bedroom cottage to a 6-bedroom oceanfront villa. Added parasailing, a sunset catamaran cruise, a private cooking class. Total, $14,200. I put down a $4,000 deposit in January. Why would I spend that on people who put my daughter on a folding chair? Because I was still the girl cooking dinner without being asked. Still trying to earn love with grand gestures. Old patterns break hard. Mom spread her printed itinerary, wine tastings, photography session at golden hour. Then she looked at me. "I think it would be best if Lily stayed home this time. The activities are adult-oriented. A child would slow us down." She paused. "And honestly, the photos would look better without coordinating around a 9-year-old. The table went silent. Derek looked at his plate. Lauren sipped water. Dad disappeared behind his wineglass. Lily's crayon stopped. "She doesn't have tantrums," I said quietly. "She's been looking forward to this." Dad cleared his throat. "Your mother has a point. Maybe Lily would be more comfortable at home." Lily's eyes started to well up. I squeezed her hand under the table. "I understand," I said, keeping my voice perfectly level. "Let me just make a quick call." Mom looked satisfied. She assumed I was calling a sitter. I dialed the resort. The room resumed chatting. Derek discussed excursions. Lauren scrolled the photographer's portfolio on her phone. "Hello, Outer Banks Premier Rentals. Reservation OBX 4471. I need to process a full cancellation and refund." The chatter stopped dead. The entire reservation. Villa upgrade, activity packages, catamaran, photography, cooking class, everything. Mom's fork hit her plate. "Refund what?" I held the phone steady. "That's my $4,000 deposit from January," I said, showing her my phone. "The remaining $10,200 was due next month. I was covering the whole trip. Villa, pool, catamaran, photographer, a surprise for your anniversary." She stared at the screen. "You paid for the villa. Everything. I wanted to give you something special for 40 years, but apparently my daughter isn't part of this family." Mom's voice rose. "You can't cancel it. We've been planning this for months." I set my phone on the table, screen facing up. "You've been planning. I've been paying." The room was so quiet you could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. "This is insane," Derek said. "You're canceling everyone's trip because Mom made a suggestion." Mom didn't suggest. She declared. She told me to remove my child from a trip I was funding because a 9-year-old doesn't match the aesthetic she wants. Lauren tried next. "Can we talk about this like adults?" I'm making an adult decision not to fund a vacation my daughter was excluded from." Dad shifted into his boardroom voice. "Let's not be hasty. We can adjust the plans." The refund is already processing. Call them back, Mom demanded. Tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. You made it clear Lily isn't welcome. I'm simply respecting your wishes. I looked at my daughter. Her eyes were dry now, watching, learning. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, not the cancellation, but the leaving, in the shower, in the car, in bed at 2:00 in the morning. The moment I stopped waiting for a seat that was never going to come, Lily tugged my sleeve. Mom, can we go home now? Of course, sweetheart. We have planning of our own to do. If you've ever sat at a table where your child was treated as something to manage instead of someone to love, type the word enough in the comments. Because what happened after we walked out that door is the part that made everything unravel. My phone started buzzing before we reached the end of the driveway. Derek first, then Lauren, then Dad. I let them all go to voicemail. As we pulled onto the street, I could hear raised voices in the dining room leaking through the closed windows. Chairs scraping, a door slamming. Mom's voice pitched high enough to crack glass. 3 hours of dark highway home. The Connecticut Turnpike stretched ahead like a question with no answer. Lily stared at headlights, hands folded in her lap. I watched her reflection in the passenger window. Her jaw was set. Her fingers were still. Somewhere past the New Haven toll plaza, her voice came small against the engine hum. Mom, why doesn't Grandma want me there? I had been preparing for this question for years. Sometimes grown-ups make bad decisions and say hurtful things. What Grandma said tonight wasn't right, and I wasn't going to let anyone treat you that way, not even family. But now nobody gets to go on the vacation. That's right. Because of me. My heart cracked. I reached over and took her hand. Her fingers were cold. No, baby, never because of you, because of what they said about you. There is a very big difference. You didn't do anything wrong tonight. You were perfect. You are always perfect. She squeezed my hand. Okay, Mom. 2 words, simple and trusting. The kind of trust that makes you swear silently, violently, that you will never let anyone break it. She fell asleep around Bridgeport, her head tilted against the window, breath fogging the glass in small, even circles. And that was when I lost it. Not loudly, not dramatically. Tears ran down my face in the dark, silent and steady, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. I cried for the girl who won the spelling bee alone. For the woman who planned a $14,200 vacation for people who couldn't be bothered to set an extra plate. For the mother who had to explain to her 9-year-old why Grandma didn't want her there. I cried until the exit for Portland appeared in the headlights. Then I wiped my nose on my jacket sleeve like a kid, checked the mirror, and pulled myself together. Because that is what mothers do. They fall apart where nobody can see them. By the time we got home at 11:15, I had 22 missed calls and 31 text messages. Derek, Mom's in tears, hope you're happy. Just call the resort and fix this. Lauren, I understand you're upset, but this affects all of us. Can we please find a middle ground? Dad, your mother didn't mean it the way it sounded. She's stressed about the planning. Don't throw away $14,000 out of spite. Not one of them said what Mom did was wrong. Not one apologized. Not one asked how Lily was doing. They were upset about losing the vacation. That was the priority. The vacation, not my daughter. I texted back 3 times to Derek. The resort has my decision. Enjoy your summer. To Lauren, the middle ground was including my daughter. You all chose a different path. To Dad, this isn't spite. It's self-respect, something I'm teaching Lily by showing her she doesn't have to accept being treated as less than. The next morning, the confirmation email arrived at 8:20. Reservation canceled. Refund processing, minus a $600 cancellation fee on the activity packages. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold, and stared at the screen. I didn't feel a single regret. At 7:30 that morning, Aunt Maggie called. 69 years old, 40 years running a high school, 0 patience for small talk. I heard what happened, she said. Your brother called Lisa. Lisa called me, and by 9 last night half the family knew. Patricia is telling everyone you ruined her anniversary out of spite. I let her talk. I've been watching your mother perform for 64 years, Nadia. I remember when she was Patty Duffresney from Bridgeport Hollow, sharing a bedroom with 3 sisters in a house with 1 bathroom. I remember when she told her first husband's family she grew up on the shoreline, like Bridgeport and Greenwich are the same zip code. Maggie paused, her voice dropped. I've been keeping something. I wasn't sure when the right time was, but I think it is now. 3 years, Nadia, a leather-bound planner, every exclusion, dates, direct quotes, who was present, 14 entries. She read 3 of them. April 2023, Patricia, I miscounted the place settings. Lily ate on a paper plate on her mother's lap. Derek's twins had ceramic plates and crystal glasses. November 2024, Lily seated on folding chair between the wall and china cabinet. Direct quote from Patricia to Lauren. The composition looks better without the little one in frame. December 2024, Christmas card photo. Patricia to photographer. Just the core family for the formal shots. Nadia and Lily not included. 42 cards mailed. 3 years, 14 entries. Everyone dated, quoted, and witnessed by a retired principal who spent her career documenting behavior. Why didn't you say something? I asked. Because I needed you to say something first. An old aunt telling her sister to be kinder is background noise. A mother standing up for her daughter, that's an earthquake. She paused. And Nadia, I called your mother this morning. Read her every entry. She hung up on me. First time in 64 years she's ever hung up on her big sister, which tells me I hit bone. I thanked her. I hung up. And then I opened my laptop because I had a vacation to rebook. I booked Bar Harbor that same afternoon. 20 minutes flat. 5 nights, seaside cottage with blue shutters overlooking Frenchman Bay, art camp for kids in the mornings, whale watching on Wednesday, kayaking on Thursday. Total, $2,800. When you plan events for a living, vacations are Tuesday morning. Joanna laughed when I told her. You just canceled a $14,000 trip and rebooked something better for a fifth of the price. That is the most Nadia Carlisle thing I have ever heard. Lily helped me pick the cottage. She pointed at the screen and said, That one, Mom, it has flowers. We had 5 perfect days. We painted watercolors on the porch while the bay glittered in the morning sun. We watched humpback whales breach so close the spray hit our faces, and Lily screamed with joy. We ate lobster rolls on the dock and ice cream for breakfast, because nobody was there to judge. She made 3 friends at art camp and came home each afternoon with paint on her elbows and a smile wider than Frenchman Bay. On our last morning, I took a photo. Lily on the porch, holding a watercolor of a whale breaching under a pink sky. Her hair wild from salt air, smile enormous, bay catching morning light like hammered copper. I posted it with a caption, 5 perfect days with my favorite person. Turns out the best vacations happen when you're with someone who actually wants you there. 340 likes within 2 hours. Then Mom commented, Looks like you had fun without us. I typed back, We did, thanks for the opportunity. Lauren replied, That's petty, Nadia, I wrote. What's petty is excluding a 9-year-old because she doesn't match your aesthetic. What I'm doing is called having standards. Then I muted the group chat and watched Lily pack her suitcase, carefully wrapping her whale painting in a beach towel so it wouldn't smudge. But life was about to force the truth out in the most public way imaginable. 6 months of silence. The calls came in waves, angry, then pleading, then nothing. By August, Lily had stopped asking about Grandma. By September, Starlight booked its largest contract yet, a pharmaceutical company retreat for 300 guests in Camden. I started sleeping through the night for the first time in years. The anger didn't disappear. It just quieted into something colder and cleaner, not forgiveness, just distance. I focused on my daughter, my business, and the life I was building without their approval. Then in November, Dad called. Not Mom, Dad. His voice sounded different, unscripted, raw, like a man who had rehearsed this call 50 times and still wasn't ready. Nadia, your mother wants the family together for Thanksgiving. Connecticut Magazine is doing a feature on Derek's firm and they want to photograph a family holiday dinner. Full table. I almost hung up. Maggie's words echoed. She wants Lily for the photo, not because she's sorry. I'm not interested in being a prop, Dad. He was quiet for a long time. "I'm not asking for your mother. I'm asking for me. I've been thinking about what happened at that dinner every day since March. Bring Lily. Bring Maggie. Come for me, not for her." Something in his voice cracked, and I heard the man who used to carry me on my shoulders at the farmer's market before Patricia Carlisle replaced him with Richard the peacekeeper. I called Maggie that evening, told her about the dinner, about the magazine. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said something that stopped me cold. "Connecticut Magazine. They ran a 4-page spread on the governor's inaugural gala last spring. Your name was in the photo caption, Nadia. If anyone from that magazine is at dinner, they will know exactly who you are." I hadn't thought about that. Joanna sat across from me, listening. "Go," she said, "but bring armor." I brought Maggie. And Maggie brought the planner. If you're still with me, hit subscribe right now. Because what happened at that Thanksgiving table, even I didn't see the full weight of it coming. Thanksgiving 2026. My parents' house in Westbrook, 13 people around the dining table. Derek and Ashley, Lauren and Todd, Mom and Dad, Maggie, 2 of Dad's retired colleagues, Martin and his wife Ruth, a neighbor couple from the church, the Connecticut Magazine photographer, a young man named Jason, setting up a tripod in the corner, and Lily and me. The house smelled like roasted turkey and furniture polish, the smell of performance. Every napkin ironed, every candle lit, every surface gleaming. The table was set with the cream china, gold-rimmed glasses, and the linen runner Mom ordered from a catalog in Vermont. It was beautiful, and it was a stage. Mom greeted us at the door in cream linen and pearls. "Nadia, how nice." Her smile was precise. Her eyes moved to Lily. "Sweetheart, you'll sit over here." She pointed to a chair at the far end near the kitchen door, away from the center, away from the camera frame, the same end of the table, the same message as always. Lily looked up at me. Her hand tightened on mine. "She'll sit next to me, Mom, in the middle. The photographer needs a certain composition. She sits next to me, or we leave." Mom pressed her lips together. "Fine." The word came out like a door slamming. Dinner was tense. Small talk over cranberry sauce. Too loud laughter at jokes that weren't funny. Long silences filled with the sound of silverware. I could feel the room holding its breath. Lily drew whales on her napkin with a pen she'd brought in her pocket. Nobody commented. Nobody asked to see. Then, halfway through the main course, Jason asked everyone to hold still for a candid shot. Mom reached across and gently moved Lily's water glass out of the frame. The glass was ordinary, but Lily had traced a whale on it that morning with blue permanent marker. Joanna had helped her. It was silly and scrappy and specifically Lily. I watched my mother's fingers close around that glass and slide it behind the centerpiece like it was clutter. Like my daughter's art was something to hide for the photograph. And Maggie set down her fork. Her voice carried the calm authority of a woman who had silenced auditoriums full of teenagers for 4 decades. "Patricia, put the glass back." Mom froze. "I beg your pardon." I said put the glass back. That child's whale glass stays in the photograph or I start reading. Reading what? Maggie reached into the leather bag beside her chair and placed a planner on the table, worn at the spine. 3 colored tabs marking specific pages. She opened to the first tab. April 2023, Easter brunch, Patricia Carlisle. I miscounted the place settings. Lily Carlisle, age 4, ate Easter dinner on a paper plate on her mother's lap. 4 other grandchildren had ceramic plates and crystal glasses. She turned the page. December 2023, Christmas card photo, Patricia to the photographer Glenn, just the core family for the formal shots. Nadia and Lily were not included. 42 cards mailed. Jason lowered his camera slowly. November 2024, Thanksgiving. Lily seated on a metal folding chair between the wall and the china cabinet. 6 identical dining chairs stacked in the garage. Direct quote from Patricia to Lauren. "The composition looks better without the little one in frame." The room was so quiet I could hear the candle flames flickering. March 2026, anniversary trip planning dinner. Patricia Carlisle, direct quote. "She doesn't fit with our image. A child would ruin the aesthetic." Nadia Carlisle canceled a $14,200 vacation she had been secretly funding for the entire family after her daughter was excluded. Mom's eyes dropped to the planner, rose to Maggie's face, dropped back to the planner. Her hands trembled against the tablecloth. Her jaw worked silently, opening and closing like a door that wouldn't latch. She tried to speak. No sound came. "That's ridiculous," she finally managed. "Those are taken completely out of context." There is no context that makes a paper plate acceptable when 4 other grandchildren eat from ceramic Patricia. "This is Thanksgiving," Mom's voice rose. "This is completely inappropriate. You are embarrassing me in front of... You embarrassed your 9-year-old granddaughter in front of her family for 3 years. 14 documented incidents, everyone witnessed." Mom spun toward me, eyes bright and hard. "You put her up to this. You have always been oversensitive, Nadia. You have always twisted things to make yourself the victim." "I didn't twist anything, Mom. Maggie is reading your own words back to you. After everything I have done for this family," Mom's voice cracked like ice splitting. 30 years of holidays and cooking and keeping this house together." Todd set down his napkin, quietly, deliberately, like a man who had been rehearsing this in his head for months. "Patricia, stop, please, just stop." The table went absolutely still. Lauren looked at her husband, then down at her plate. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. "Mom," she whispered, "she is reading your own words." And then the slip. What psychologists call a stress confession, when the pressure of maintaining a lie exceeds the energy to keep it and the truth escapes through the cracks like steam. "I spent 30 years making this family respectable." Patricia's voice was shaking. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "I grew up with nothing. My mother cleaned houses for 30 years and died with $400 in the bank. I wasn't going to let a broken marriage and a child from a..." She caught herself, her mouth closed. Her eyes went wide, but it was too late. 13 people heard what she almost said, not a defense, a confession. She had excluded Lily because a single mother's daughter did not fit the image she had spent 30 years building over the trailer park in Bridgeport Hollow. Martin, Dad's retired colleague, leaned forward. His face had changed. The polite dinner guest was gone, replaced by something harder. "Thomas, I need to say something." "When I asked about Nadia at the retirement lunch 2 years ago, Patricia told me your daughter had moved on and didn't come around anymore. I believed her." Then Jason set his camera down slowly. He had been staring at me since Maggie said the name Nadia Carlisle out loud. I could see the recognition building behind his eyes, the way a young journalist's face changes when a story lands in his lap unexpectedly. "Wait," he said. "Starlight events. You planned the governor's inaugural gala. I shot the photos for our spring issue," the 4-page spread. "I thought I recognized your name on the place card." He turned to Patricia, his voice quiet but precise. "Your daughter runs one of the top event planning agencies in New England." Mom's face went blank. "What?" "Revenue crossed 1.2 million this year," I said. My voice was quiet, steady. 6 employees, the governor's office, 3 Fortune 500 clients. You spent 3 years telling your book club I was barely getting by. You told Martin I didn't come around. I was building something, Mom. While you were moving my daughter to folding chairs, I was setting tables for 1,500 people. Dad stood up, slowly. His knees protested. His hands shook. But his voice was the steadiest I had heard it in 40 years. "Here is what is going to happen," he said. 1, you will apologize to Lily, directly, looking her in the eyes, not a performance, a real apology. 2, there will be no more exclusions, no folding chairs, no paper plates, no clean compositions. Every grandchild at the same table, same chairs, same glasses. If one child gets ceramic, they all get ceramic. 3, family counseling, all of us, starting in January, a professional. He looked at Patricia. His eyes were wet, but his jaw was set. "And if you cannot agree to those 3 things, then Nadia and Lily have a family right here, and you will be the one with the empty chair." Mom stood. Her napkin slid to the floor. She walked through the kitchen doorway without looking back. Her heels clicked against the hardwood in a measured, precise rhythm, even unhurried, the only controlled thing left about her. The back door opened, closed, the sound of an engine starting, and then silence. What happened after that Thanksgiving was not quick and it was not painless. Mom called me once 2 weeks later, not to apologize, to tell me I had destroyed this family. I told her I hadn't destroyed anything, I had simply stopped funding the performance. Then I asked her one question. When was the last time you asked Lily what she draws? Silence. She draws whales, Mom, every single day. Because when she was 4, I told her that whale mothers carry their calves for 17 months, longer than any other mammal. She said, "That's because the mom wants to make sure the baby knows she's wanted." She was 4 years old, and she understood something you never learned. Mom hung up. I set the phone down, poured coffee, didn't cry. I was beyond crying. I was in the clean, open space that comes after you stop asking someone to love you the way you need. Dad had been sleeping in the guest room since Easter. He told me later that he hadn't been able to look at Patricia the same way since that dinner, since he heard the word aesthetic used to describe why his granddaughter wasn't welcome. He filed for separation in January. He told me on the porch in Portland, fog rolling silver over the harbor. I've been thinking about it since March, since I watched her tell our family that our granddaughter was an inconvenience, and I sat there and said nothing. I'm done being the man who says nothing. He drives 4 hours every other weekend now. No complaints, no excuses. He brings grocery store flowers, whatever is freshest, usually tulips or daisies, and bad jokes he saves on his phone all week. Lily calls him Grandpa Rich, her name for him, given freely, not assigned. At her art show in February, he walked into the community center at 10:15 on a Saturday morning. The room smelled like acrylic paint and apple juice. 12 children had paintings on the walls. He walked past every single one until he found Lily's, a whale breaching under a pink sky, larger and more confident than the one from Bar Harbor. The colors were bold, deep indigo water, sky streaked with coral and gold, the whale's body catching the light as it arced above the surface. He stood in front of it for a long time. His hands were in his pockets. His chin trembled. Then he knelt down, his knees protesting, his breath catching, and said, "This is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Lily looked at him, then at me. Her eyes asked a question. I nodded. She stepped forward and hugged him, tentative at first, the hug of a child taught by 1,000 small exclusions that love from this family comes with conditions. Then fierce. She pressed her face into his shoulder and held on. He held on like a man drowning. He held on like a man who finally understood what he had been throwing away. Not a vacation, not an image, but this small, fierce, whale-drawing girl who had never asked for anything except a real seat at the table. When he stood up, tears on his face, he wiped them slowly. "I am sorry I let them make you small, Lily. You are not small. You are the biggest thing in this family. I should have said that a long time ago." We had dinner that night. Pizza on the living room floor because the kitchen table was covered in art supplies. Dad ate 3 slices and laughed at Lily's impression of her art teacher. He asked about her friends, her whale obsession, her favorite color of paint. He asked the questions nobody in that family had previously thought to ask. Derek called once in March, not to apologize, to inform me the Connecticut magazine feature ran without us. The photographer said the table looked unbalanced with 2 empty chairs. "Maybe the table was always unbalanced, Derek. You just didn't notice because the imbalance was a 9-year-old on a folding chair." Long silence. "I should have said something at that dinner, the first one." "Yes, you should have." Another silence. "I am sorry, Nadia." It was the first honest thing he had said to me in 37 years. I told him sorry was a starting place, not a finish line. He said he understood. Then, almost as an afterthought, "Mom started seeing someone, a therapist. She won't call it that, she calls it talking to Dr. Huang about stress management. But she goes every Tuesday." I didn't say anything. He didn't need me to. Lauren sent a card for Lily's birthday. Generic Hallmark, $20 inside. No personal note. But 2 weeks later, she texted a photo herself and Todd at a children's literacy event, shelving books, both smiling in a way I had never seen from her. Caption, "Starting somewhere." It was not much, but it was the first thing Lauren had ever done without asking Mom's permission first. People reconcile at different speeds. I had stopped measuring. Aunt Maggie comes for holidays now. She and Dad sit at my kitchen table and argue about politics, and the red socks while Lily draws at the counter and Joanna brings wine that costs $12 and tastes like $100. I cook the meal nobody asks for but everybody eats. It is messy. It is loud. The table is never properly set. There are no linen napkins, no catalog runners, no photographer in the corner. Lily drinks from the crystal glasses, the real ones, the good ones, because I told her she is not a paper plate kid, and she never was. Last month, Lily finished her biggest painting, a whale mother and calf swimming side by side through deep blue water. Light from somewhere above catches their backs, turning them gold. In the bottom right corner, in her careful 9-year-old handwriting, "For Mom, because you stayed." I hung it on the wall above the kitchen table, right where everyone who sits down to eat with us can see it. Some families are not built around matching aesthetics and photographer-approved compositions. Some families are built around paper plates turned to crystal glasses, around 4-hour drives and grocery store flowers, around a grandmother with a leather planner full of truth and a best friend who showed up with pastries when the world fell apart, around a 9-year-old who draws whales because she learned from her mother that love means staying. Sometimes that lesson costs $14,200. But it is worth every penny when you are teaching your daughter that she was never the problem. She was always the point. Mom never understood what she lost, but Lily understood what she gained. And that was worth more than any vacation on Earth.
I hope you enjoyed this tale. Please subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye for now.